Well, it's endgame for Vadra's aide and fugitive arms dealer Sanjay Bhandari. British Home Secretary has in fact cleared Bhandari's extradition. He has 14 days to appeal against the extradition in the High Court against the order. Now, if the Enforcement Directorate succeeds, the fugitive arms dealer will have to face the courts here in India on serious charges of money laundering and tax evasion. The reason why this is a huge blow to Robert Vadra is because of an April 2010 email trail between Robert Vadra and Bhandari's alleged aide Thampi regarding a London property. Times Now has continuously been reporting on this story, and now the Enforcement Directorate claims this property is owned by Bhandari's frontman and held the property for the Gandhi-in-law, which is Robert Vadra. In other words, the Enforcement Directorate maintains that the flat in London was a kickback paid allegedly to Vadra as a commission for allegedly introducing Bhandari to top UP officials, including ministers, to clear a petroleum deal. The courts in India have already taken cognizance of a charge sheet that makes this claim, and with Bhandari's return, the Enforcement Directorate will be able to question the arms dealer and draw out more as far as the alleged kickback to Vadra is concerned. And it's quite apparent that once Bhandari is in India, the focus will shift to linking Robert Vadra to that scandal. That's the big question that continues to remain, especially given this development that has taken place, a massive setback to his aide. Times Now, in fact, confronted Robert Vadra as well in November. Watch how he threatens Times Now's reporter.
Robert Vadra, Sanjay Bhandari will be brought back to India. What do you have to say? Vadra, what do you have to say? Sanjay Bhandari will be brought back to India. Robert Vadra, Sanjay Bhandari will be brought back to India. What do you have to say? Vadra, what do you have to say? Sanjay Bhandari will be brought back to India. Robert Vadra, Sanjay Bhandari will be brought back to India. What do you have to say? Vadra, what do you have to say? Sanjay Bhandari will be brought back to India.
Okay, so yes, the British Home Secretary has passed this order, and this is exactly why it's a setback for Sanjay Bhandari. Also trouble in that sense mounting for Robert Vadra. Let's tell you why the Enforcement Directorate suspects the Bhandari-Vadra link. What's legal is that Bhandari's rise from the homeopathy to arms deals. That's something that's on paper, on record. Why this is suspicious, as per the Enforcement Directorate, that the mail trail on the London home links Bhandari and Vadra. So there's a clear link with regards to the London property, and the Enforcement Directorate has been investigating the same since the longest time. In 2008, Bhandari floated Offset India Solutions. So that's the firm that was floated by him. The Enforcement Directorate suspects that he started this after 2006 UPA's 30% plowback policy. So this is with regards to a direct UPA connection that has emerged. The Enforcement Directorate suspecting corruption in that sense as well, to that extent. What's legal also is that in 2010, and this is factual, Bhandari gets a Pilates deal to in fact liaison with India. So that's the deal that is also under scanner, because the Enforcement Directorate suspects that huge deal to a newcomer with no prior experience. Why is it that this kind of a deal was given back in 2010 with no prior experience whatsoever? April 2010, remember also Bhandari Vadra email trail on the London home. The email trail is something that the Enforcement Directorate claims to have accessed, and they suspect that it's incidentally coincided with the Pilates deal. So how is there a direct relation with the deal that he struck here in India under the UPA regime and the kind of benefits he received? A direct link to the London property is also being probed by the Enforcement Directorate. June 2010, Bhandari sells the Bryanston home for £1.9 million. That's the fact on ground that's taken place on paper. Vadra collusion in that sense. Bhavtosh is joining us with more details. Bhavtosh, if you could take us through the timeline here, what the Enforcement Directorate has been suspecting for the longest time, and with this order having been passed, how is it clear trouble for both Bhandari and Robert Vadra?
Well, as far as Enforcement Directorate is concerned, it was in 2018 when they arrested, when they in fact questioned Manoj Arora, close aide of Robert Vadra and also of Sanjay Bhandari. When his questioning started happening, there was an email trail, as you rightly said, between Sanjay Bhandari and Robert Vadra, which showed that the London property, the Branston Square property, was beneficially owned by Robert Vadra. And this property actually was purchased from the commission that Sanjay Bhandari got. This company was FEZ Investments. This company, in fact, got commission from the Samsung ONGC deal. Remember, Samsung ONGC deal was struck in 2009, and the company that in fact got commission was Sanjay Bhandari's company, which was based out of Dubai. And once this company got the commission, then through Vortex, they managed to purchase the house in London. Now, what the Enforcement Directorate has found is that though the property is in name of Sanjay Bhandari, the beneficial owner of this property is Robert Vadra. Now, Robert Vadra has always denied this, but the email trail clearly showed that it was Sanjay Bhandari, it was Robert Vadra who was calling the shots, right from the construction that happened and also the maintenance work that happened. Now, to show that there was no direct link between Robert Vadra and Sanjay Bhandari, there were several shell companies that were set up, and through these shell companies, money was routed. One of the persons was C.C. Thampi. C.C. Thampi was later arrested by the Enforcement Directorate. He's an NRI based out of Dubai. And C.C. Thampi, in fact, said that it was on the directions of Robert Vadra this property was purchased. And again, there was a shell company through which this property was later resold. The very fact that the property that was purchased for 4.9 million pounds sterling was again sold off for same amount clearly showed that there was no desire to make any kind of profit. Now, this is one of the deals in which Sanjay Bhandari name cropped up. The Income Tax Department, in fact, first carried out raids and searches in 2015, and subsequently it was from his residence. There were some classified documents that were recovered, and then the first case was registered against him under the Officers Secrets Act. In June 2020, the Enforcement Directorate filed a prosecution complaint under the Benami Act, which showed that there were several deals and several properties that Sanjay Bhandari had purchased across the globe, particularly in Europe.
Okay, we have Majid Memon joining us on the phone line. Thank you for staying on with us, Bhavtosh. We'll come back to you in just a bit. Mr. Memon, what do you make of this? The British Home Secretary having approved the order. This, of course, being one step further in the sense that the Enforcement Directorate is looking at Sanjay Bhandari's extradition at the earliest. Bhavtosh was taking us through the long timeline as far as this case is concerned. Don't you sense this is trouble mounting for both Sanjay Bhandari and also indirectly for Robert Vadra, given the linkages that have been put out by the investigating agencies?
Sir, I think, we are in a little bit of haste in drawing conclusions that it has become a problem for Vadra because he happens to be from Gandhi family. Let us not be biased against anybody. In fact, Bhandara's this extradition, will take its own time. We have heard 3 years ago that Vijay Mallya was extradited. Where is he? Has he come so far? Why do we all just preconceive things and then start drawing conclusions? Let this man come. One does not know on which day will dawn when he will physically be brought here. Then thereafter, as a consequence of his being brought here, what happens thereafter is also a legal exercise. So we have to wait, and we don't have to just pre-decide things which are to take shape as yet. And then there's no
surely. But it is a step in that direction, sir, and that can't be negated at this point in time. Of course, he still has legal options pending before him. So I'll come back to you. Thank you for speaking to us. In the meanwhile, bringing in Swapnil Kothari into the conversation, who can perhaps throw some more light on what next for Sanjay Bhandari. And we're talking about how this could also spell some troubles for Robert Vadra, because there are claims being made by the Enforcement Directorate who are claiming that they have proof to substantiate, Mr. Kothari, that there were kickbacks. In fact, the London property also pretty much under the scanner that this was a kickback in return for access to top UPA leaders. So all of that in the realm of speculation still, but these are serious allegations being leveled by the Enforcement Directorate. Where do you see this legally today, sir?
Well, what I see is that at least one hurdle by Suella Braverman has been removed for India. She's denied political asylum to this man. He has an option to go before the High Court now, which I don't think is much. It's just mere legal formality. The High Court will deny him any relief. He will be extradited sooner than later. And I mean at least a year, because sooner means not within a couple of weeks or a month, because these things do take a long period of time. So I believe it will be almost a year before we literally see this man on our soil. Now, be that as it may, these are all fantastic developments, both on the judicial front and both on the diplomatic front. I've always emphasized when I've spoken about Vijay Mallya, when I've spoken about Nirav Modi, that diplomatically India will have to wield its sword very, very strongly with the UK counterparts to ensure that UK cannot be perceived as some sort of a safe haven for all the fugitive economic offenders who escape from this country and who escape the wrath of the law here and seek haven there. Obviously, the United Kingdom, which has established the rule of law and from whom we've borrowed our legal system pretty much, will not want to be perceived as some sort of fugitive economic harborer. So for that matter, the UK will ensure that it sends its, all the people back. More importantly, legally, there is a treaty between India and the United Kingdom. The treaty envisages that any offense which is considered as any act which is considered as an offense in both the states, that is India and the United Kingdom, and is punishable, each nation state will have to respect each other by granting the request for extradition. So the United Kingdom is not doing us a favor by sending this man or any other man back to us. They are only complying with the requirements of the treaty. Having said that, now that we have a Prime Minister of a UK or of an Indian origin in the United Kingdom, we have more of a say there. We can wield our clout more and try to see that it comes back. Now, once he comes back here and faces the wrath of the law, all these charges that have been leveled against him, whether they are in concert with Mr. Vadra, whether they are on his own accord, I would assume that it cannot be on his own accord. It will be in concert with someone. Now, whether it is with Mr. Vadra, to what extent the Enforcement Directorate is able to prove that, I'm sure that the Enforcement Directorate has got some teeth and some merit, more so in its own case. Extradition is a separate aspect, Kritsween. Let me tell you that. Extradition is a separate aspect. That's got a different...
Absolutely. So one is extradition. The other part of it is, of course, what the investigative agencies have been maintaining. Thank you, Mr. Kothari, for that. The agencies have identified a house in London, as I was mentioning, as the prize that was offered allegedly by Sanjay Bhandari to Robert Vadra as a kickback in exchange for access to top UPA leaders. So we get you more details on this property, which is based in Bryanston in London. We quickly shift our focus to this. Look at this, viewers. This is, remember, what the IT department has maintained so far. So these are revelations as have been put out by the Income Tax Department. This is the property in question here, 12 Ellerton House in London, which is in Bryanston. It's owned by Harold Sachs and Shirley Sachs from 2000 to 2016. If we talk about the investigations against Bhandari, though, they were, remember, launched in the year 2019. This is, of course, with regards to the 2009 case as is being leveled by the agencies. But if we talk about the Sachs family gave Benami services to politically exposed people. So the family which owns this property also doesn't have a very clean record with regards to what the investigative agencies in London have found out. Benami services provided by Ellerton House Management Limited. So there is a Benami service link that is also being spoken of by the investigating agencies as well. And further to establish to own a flat, buyers were made to pick shares in the holding company. So this is where the story gets bigger. There is just not a Sanjay Bhandari involvement. There is another family that is being spoken of, and that's exactly why these questions have been asked by the agencies as well. In land records, Sachs family remain the original owners. Though on paper, they are the original owners, the investigating agencies suspect a lot more to this story, and they are saying that this is the price that was offered by Sanjay Bhandari to Robert Vadra. What proof exactly do they have remains to be seen still, as they're going to be putting it out in front of the courts once he's extradited to India. But in 2010, Skylight invested in Ellerton House Management Limited. Now this particular company is also something that the investigating agencies have spoken of, and Robert Vadra uses Skylight for all his investments. So if the Sachs family has a direct relation with the Skylight Limited, here's where the Robert Vadra link emerges, and that is how all of those dots get joined, and that's what the investigating agencies have been speaking of. So whether or not it's going to be eventually trouble mounting for Robert Vadra post the extradition remains to be seen. A big step in that direction for now. We shift our